Welcome to CineBites, a cinematic culinary podcast where we experience the wonders and beauty of cinema with our eyes and explore the unique and glorious cuisine in those films with our taste buds. Today, we're peering through the lens of Alfred Hitchcock's classic thriller, Rear Window. So grab your binoculars, settle in your seat, and join us for a suspenseful yet delicious cinematic adventure. Feast your eyes.
All right.
Rear window.
All right. Most of you have probably never heard of this movie before.
Probably not. You've probably heard of Alfred Hitchcock. He was kind of a big deal back in the day. A little bit. And he is more so known for movies such as Psycho, Vertigo, Birds. But he has made so many good films.
Yep.
And this happens to be when we started talking about, the origins of this podcast, you talked about Rear Window, and I hadn't heard of it when you mentioned it.
And it's up there in some of my favorite movies. I've not seen very many of Hitchcock's movies. I've seen this one, and I've seen Psycho, and I think that might be it.
So it's probably the best Alfred Hitchcock.
So it's probably the best Alfred Hitchcock movie ever.
Of all time.
Of all time.
Quote it.
Quote it. I just said it. No, but I do want to see, I hear Vertigo is very good.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, that's beside the point. This is one of my favorite movies. I mean, it's not, I don't know if I would ever say it's my favorite movie if someone were to ask me, but when I go in my list of movies I've seen, every time I see that movie, I'm like, man, I really liked that whole watching experience.
Oh, yeah.
It was really good, really classic feel to it. But there are some unique cinematography choices and things that happen in this film that are unlike anything else.
Yeah.
And that are also unique to Hitchcock and this film in particular.
Yeah, actually, one of the things I read before I watched this for the first time is that I believe it was all filmed in one set.
Yeah.
Yeah, so everything that you saw was, they, obviously had to, move things around and recreate things, but it was all in the same set.
Yeah, and you can tell that there were no corners cut. Alfred Hitchcock at this point, I think, was a very big name by the time this movie came out. I don't know when this came out, at what point in his career it came out.
Right.
But this was a big budget movie for the time, so they could have this huge set that it's all in camera. Obviously, at the time there was no really there's no CGI. There are special effects, but there's not CGI. So you have to do everything mostly in camera.
Yeah.
And so that makes the budget go up even more for a movie like this because it requires such a big set. And I think one thing that makes this movie unique, I mean, there's lots of movies that do this, but it is one of those films that is just a one-location film.
Yeah.
It stays in the one location the entire time. You can view things off from the distance outside of the rear window of his apartment, hence the name, but most of it, or what am I saying? Most of it just takes place right there in his apartment.
Yeah, in a central location.
You view everything outside of the window when you as the viewer, and I'll talk about this a little bit more later, you as a viewer are up there in the apartment with, what's his name?
Oh, with the character's name?
Yeah.
Jeff.
Jeff
is his
You're
name.
up there with Jeff. And so, spoilers if you haven't seen this movie. I mean, come on, people. This movie came out 70 years ago.
1954.
So yeah, literally,
seen it.
literally almost 70 years ago.
Yeah.
It's most likely that most of you people have not seen this movie.
Right.
And so we'll try to keep the spoilers light. At least I'm going to try and keep the spoilers light because
I will too.
I still want to talk about this movie and you guys enjoy us talking about this movie.
Yeah.
But I do think that it is worth a watch if you've never seen a Hitchcock movie.
Yeah.
Some people, when they think Hitchcock, they mostly think Psycho or Vertigo. They think of scary movies like The Birds, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But
or
this movie,
suspenseful thriller.
Yeah, and this movie is suspenseful. But this is one of those movies that I feel like you could watch as a family, and there are some more adult themes. I mean, maybe if your kids are this movie would be like PG-13 nowadays.
Yeah.
It's not a rated R. I think it's technically rated PG.
Yeah.
It could maybe be rated PG-13 because there are some more adult themes like murder and suicide and drinking.
This was way before the PG-13 rating, so maybe at the time it could have been.
Yeah, but this movie, if you've kind of stayed away from Hitchcock movies because you've heard of them being scary or super suspenseful, I would just suggest this because I think it's a very entry level movie. From what I know from other Hitchcock movies, I've of course only seen 2, as I've already explained, but from what I know of them, I think that this is a very entry level movie, not super scary, but it has that thriller, suspenseful build up feel to the whole thing, which I love.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's a good, like you said, it's a good entry into Hitchcock's world. I know you had mentioned, and we can even touch on this later, I know you had mentioned about the film style specifically and everything. I read something that was pretty interesting where the actual film negative for this Hitchcock movie was damaged considerably, and it was I think it was a result of the color dye fading, and so it was essentially, the film was essentially close to being destroyed.
Wow.
In 1960, and then thankfully they had someone who was able to bring that back to life. So imagine what could have been. I mean, that could have gone forever, and
that's happened to a lot of movies though.
Yeah,
I feel like there are a number of movies that we've missed out on because of things like that, because if you remember, most people don't, I definitely don't, but if you know obviously movies used to be on film,
right?
Some of them still do on film today, but most of it is stored digitally. And so if the original film, it gets destroyed before they're able to distribute more copies of it, then the movie is just gone. And that used to happen a lot. One specific director, and I'm talking old, I don't know if you know George Méliès. He is known as I guess like the grandfather of special effects. He's like the first person to ever have like layered film on top of each other and do like different special effects with film and cut them and do kind of like green screen things. But this is like in the 20s.
Oh wow.
And so he's like, if you know the trip to the moon, you know that with the thing in his eye, that's a George Méliès movie.
Oh.
And he's got a lot of different things. Anyway,
I know. Yeah, okay, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And he famously, because of I think World War I, ended up, his studio closed down, and then he ended up burning and destroying a lot of his old films.
Wow.
Like a lot of huge history from this very famous, most people don't know, but in the film world, George Méliès is a big name. He was the first person to do a lot of things when it comes to movies.
Crazy.
And a lot of it was destroyed because it's in film, and he had this emotional outburst and literally burned it all in the front yard of his big studio.
Wow.
And
probably why I'm not super familiar with him.
Yeah, and
destroyed his stuff.
There is a lot of his stuff out there. He's still got films. It's mostly like short films, nothing more than like 15, 20-minute things. But anyway, Google him if you've not heard of him before. But when I think old movies, I think George Méliès. When I think of film being destroyed, I think of him as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow. Well, we can definitely dissect more of the film and more about, kind of that era, I guess you could say, the golden age of Hollywood. We can kind of talk more about that. But right now we're going to talk about the food that we saw in the movie.
And I forgot to take a picture of the food.
Oh. Here,
That's
take
fine.
it right
take
now.
It right now.
Yeah.
I'll get you in the picture.
Yeah. I'll smile too.
So I'll I'll do this too. I'll put that up for you guys to see. Here's a picture of the food that I just took.
Yeah.
As well as we've got a drink. But I also want to put on the screen right now a screenshot of the food in the movie itself. Yeah. Because there's a shot in which this food appears.
Yeah. And it's very brief.
It's very brief. But it's very brief, but it also stands out because it's kind of an odd shot where it just cuts to it really fast, shows a plate of food, and then cuts away.
Yeah, it comes back to Jeff.
But and I'm going to talk a little bit about that, a little bit more about the significance of this food in the movie, even though it's so brief. I'm going to talk about it in a minute. But we have here today, we have lobster tail and fries, as well as sparkling grape juice.
Yeah.
So in the film, he actually has a dish called lobster thermidor, and you have seen the picture as I've already shown, and that requires a little bit more preparation, and so we just went with straight up lobster tail to keep it simple when we're doing these episodes. But it's essentially like a dish where they get lobster tail and mix it with a sauce and have some cheese, and then that's essentially it. So we just got lobster tail, and then he has some fries with it as well. They're more of like a shoestring, super skinny fry. So we've got some here. They're just, your normal fries, and then they drink wine a few times in the movie. A few people do, but we are just sporting some sparkling grape juice to keep it a little fancy. So anyway,
and it's tasty. Yeah, let's dig in.
Let's get into the lobster tail.
I think I'm just going to do it with my hands.
Go for it. Have a fry. Fry's fine. I mean, it's a little bit cold. How's the lobster?
Cold.
Is it cold? We warmed it up too, and it's still cold. You know what? You're right. I'm just going to use my hands.
Yeah. It smells fishy.
I love lobster, though.
Yeah, it's different cold.
Yeah, it's not bad, though. I like it.
Yeah, it's not too bad. Yeah, I know we had some butter, but I don't know what happened to it. I think I just forgot to put it on here.
Yeah, it's fine.
But
I'm sure it's already buttered.
So lobster and fries. I mean, lobster any day is going to be good.
Shoot.
Especially when you have like a surf and turf where you have the steak and lobster. Oh, my goodness. That's a good day.
So lobster traditionally is known as like a fancy food. But did you know that it used to not be fancy?
You don't say.
So, I couldn't tell you exactly when this is. I just kind of know generally that lobster, especially on the coasts, the East Coast, was there was a lot of it, and actually mostly poor people ate it.
Whoa.
I think this was like in the 1800s maybe. And then, Industrial Revolution, start fishing more, overfishing.
Yeah.
Lobster became more of a scarcity, and then because of the scarcity, became more expensive, and because it became expensive, rich people started to like it.
Wow. Crazy.
And so now it's expensive, fancy food.
It's a good taste. And I say this more in my adult years, but I say this every time, but then it follows with, but I actually like this. So I'm starting to not believe myself anymore. But I've always said that I'm not a huge seafood person, but now I'm starting to find that I do enjoy seafood. It's just certain, I think, fishes that I'm just not the biggest fan of. But I like lobster, I like crab, I like shrimp, stuff, more shellfish too. But I mean, but even in like tuna with sushi and stuff like that, I'll eat up. So, I mean, you can't go wrong with lobster and fries.
I think that's where we differ a little bit. I mean, as you were saying, you do like seafood, but I feel like I've always really liked seafood.
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe what I've tried growing up kind of tainted my thought on seafood, because I think the first kind of fish was the fishiest smelling fish. So when I taste it, it's just like tasting the ocean.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but when the older I got and the more, I guess, well versed I got with eating different foods, I would go to special restaurants with the seafood where it's made right, and that makes a huge difference.
It makes a huge difference. I love seafood, shrimp, scallops, crab, lobster, anything like that. Fish sticks. I don't mind a good fish stick with a little tartar sauce.
Yeah, I don't think I'm really big on fish sticks.
You don't like fish sticks?
But I do like
I got lobster in my teeth.
I don't mind the what is it? The McDonald's the fish witch.
Oh, the Filet-O-Fish.
Filet-O-Fish.
The fish witch.
Fish witch. I feel like that's a better name.
The fish witch.
It
the
might
fish
not
witch.
be.
Filet-O-Fish.
Filet-O-Fish. Would you like the fancy filet-o-fish at McDonald's?
Would you like the fish witch? Yeah, and then of course, as we already said, some sparkling grape juice.
Drape juice.
Some sparkling drape
on
juice.
On the non-alcoholic drink, we're already slurring our words.
Got the grape juice.
Oh man, with our fish witches.
Yeah, our fish witches. So anyway, I think we should rate the food.
Yeah.
So we can get on get on moving on. I wish it were a little warmer, and I would be curious to try a lobster thermidor, but that's a little rich for our blood.
Yeah.
On this show at this moment.
Yeah. At the moment.
And we used all of our budget up on the ostrich egg in the last episode.
That's true too. But, for us to eat meals like that, if you want to go on our website for merch, we have our shirts available, so you can purchase any kind of profit. Any kind of profit that we make for the merch, it goes right back into this show.
Yep, we use it for our food and our equipment.
This is all out of pocket for us. So our funding is this. So
and we're going broke. I'm just kidding.
If you want to help support the show, you can do it that way. There's also, I think, a donation.
Yeah, we have like a donation thing. If you go on like our podcast website, go to our Instagram, link in bio. It links you to listen, to watch, and it also has a link to go to our website, which is just another way for you to listen. You can listen directly on the website, and there's like a donation button if you want to give a couple $.
Yeah. But even if you can't, that's totally fine. We still appreciate you supporting the show by watching and listening to us. So we always love our munchies.
And at the very least, it's just fun to make. It's fun to do. And so I don't know what I'm going to rate this.
I'm giving it a 7.
I was going to give
7.0.
I think I was going to give it a 7.8.
Because I think, and I think my view of it, and that's saying it out loud that we're giving a lobster dinner a 7 is a little wild to me, but I think my mind probably would have changed if it was warmer. I think that's kind of the perception of it.
The fries with it, I'm just imagining that these fries would be better.
Yeah, if they were
in a scenario. In the movie, they definitely look better.
Oh yeah.
But with a lobster dish, I'm usually gonna want some different sides, maybe like a mac and cheese.
Ooh,
fries are good with it too.
Do you like
a rice? I don't know, mashed potatoes.
Do you like lobster mac? Like lobster meat and the mac and cheese?
Do I?
Or a lobster roll?
Ooh, don't even get me started on a lobster roll.
We got to find a movie with a lobster roll. Oh, my God.
DM us if you know a movie with a lobster roll.
DM us. Yeah, hit us up.
We're trying to recover from the last episode where I drank raw ostrich egg.
Yeah.
So now we want to start eating some good food.
Yeah.
So if you could please find a movie with a lobster roll and let us know.
We'll definitely have some bad ones, but,
Yeah, but that's fun. You got to do it for our munchies.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
do you want
7.4 average.
Yeah. There you go.
Bad.
Quick math. I like it. So, is it okay if I kind of explain
the
gist of this? Okay. And I'm actually very new to this. This is really fresh on the mind.
Just watched it yesterday, right?
Yeah, just watched it yesterday for the first time. Obviously, Alfred Hitchcock is a legend in Hollywood in and of himself. And, he was really big during as I mentioned before, the golden age of Hollywood, which I believe it was in the 1920s and it kind of ended around the 1960s. So it all has a very specific way that film was shot. And that was also the transition of kind of the black and white into color film. And that whole era, so if you watch any movie in that realm, it feels very I guess you could say stage play kind of setup, in a lot of ways. You see that, and as we've talked about more recently, 12 Angry Men, you kind of see that in that area. That may have came out a little bit later, I think, but still in that realm.
Not much later. I think it was 57.
Okay.
So around the same time, same decade.
So you still get that feel. You get, some iconic members or actors and actresses in this, even though it's a small cast. Grace Kelly was huge in that area. I mean, she was very iconic in that era. And I was reading up on her because I didn't realize she was in this movie. I was reading up. She was about 25, I think, when this movie was shot. And she, I think a year after, retired from acting because she became a princess. She married the prince of, or was his name Rainier or something like that?
I have no idea. This is new info to me.
Yeah, married him, and if you know the story of Grace Kelly or
Princess of Monaco.
Yeah,
Shoo.
she became the Princess of Monaco.
So she became rich.
Rich. I mean, and she was probably already heading up to that point, just being an actress or big name and actress in Hollywood. but she eventually, I think it was a car accident that where she died in her 50s. But so you see that, and then you also see kind of a reoccurring actor, which is James Stewart, and he's more predominantly known in Alfred Hitchcock movies. So it's kind of like one of those directors.
And he's also the dad in It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah. So he was already a big name during that time too. So you're already have that interest, with a well-known director and actor and actress to put your foot in the door to at least see this, which is why I'm surprised it didn't. And maybe it was at the time a bigger name, but right now, or if you ask anyone, our age, they'll probably be like, I don't know what that is. I have no idea what you're talking about. But I imagine at the time with names like that, it was somewhat mainstream, and it could have been fleshed out from Vertigo and all those other movies, but still a really good movie. So pretty much the movie takes place with James Stewart character, which is L.B. Jeffries, but they call him Jeff throughout the movie, and he is a photographer who ends up breaking his leg. So he's
on the job, I think, too.
Yeah, on the job. So he's in a wheelchair for the entirety of the movie. And you can tell just the way it starts, and he's looking out the rear window, and you could just tell he's just ready to get out of the cast. He's ready, to just continue traveling, to continue doing his work.
Yeah, because it's been like 6 weeks or something.
Yeah,
in the cast, and he's just stuck in his apartment. And his job is very much as if he's not just like a studio photographer. He's like what would you call it?
Kind of like a not National Geographic. I mean, you could.
But in the movie, he goes out. I mean, you don't see it, but you can tell he goes out and he goes to different places. He explains. He goes flying to different places and goes getting pictures in the jungle, and goes to where like war is happening and getting pictures and stuff like that. So his job is very dangerous, actually, and I don't think they ever explain how, but he broke his leg on the job.
Yeah,
from what you can infer.
And so when we're first introduced to him, he's very stir crazy, or in a way, like he's just ready to get done. He gets frequent visits from his girlfriend, who's Grace Kelly, Lisa in the movie, and his nurse, or caretaker during that time. And so he starts to look, or I'm assuming he's done it for a little while up until this point, but he's starting to notice stories of his neighbors who are in the rear window. So he sees different families and different individuals who are, going about their daily life, until one moment he kind of zeroes in on a particular couple, and he starts to notice funny patterns that happens with them. And we already mentioned the spoilers. So the wife ends up going missing. And Jeff is convinced that the wife has been murdered, but he's trying to convince, not everyone, but his detective friend. He's trying to, let everyone know that he firmly believes that something has taken place.
Convince his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And he eventually does convince his girlfriend. At first, it took a little bit, but I don't remember what piece of evidence it was, but he presented a piece of evidence to her as to this lady being murdered, and then she was on board from that point forward and became helpful in helping Jeff trying to figure out what's going on.
If I'm not mistaken, was it the moment where she was able, like the lights went on in the wife's room and she was able to actually see in the room, and like the bed was rolled up and he was packing?
I'm not sure.
I can't remember.
Or it might have been, I don't know, but did they see him packing up the saw and the knife? Maybe, I don't remember, but I can't remember.
But anyways, that's really the suspense of the whole movie, is they're trying to figure out is Jeff kind of making this up in his head, if the husband actually did murder the wife. So you feel that intensity throughout the entire movie, and that's really the gist of it, is them trying to figure out if that's actually going on, or if his detective friend is right and Jeff is thinking too much about it and it's actually not happening.
And one thing that I think is brilliant about the filmmaking in this movie is that as an audience member, you are constantly back and forth in whether or not you are on Jeff's team of if this happened or not.
Yeah.
Because he has a I don't know if it's a lawyer friend or a cop friend, a detective friend. That's who it is.
Yeah.
He's got a friend who is a detective who comes over, and Jeff's trying to explain to his detective friend what's happening, and the detective does not believe him. He's saying, you don't have any good evidence. You have nothing to back this up. It's highly doubtful. The chances are 1 in 10,000 that this lady was actually murdered. And so you're constantly being pulled back and forth. Is Jeff right? Is he wrong? Is he right? Especially at the beginning of when this all happens. It's the night in which he first starts noticing some suspicion. He's laying in his wheelchair by the window sleeping because I think he likes to snoop just because he's antsy to leave. So he hasn't, even though he can get up and stumble over to his bed, which is right next to him, he likes to sit in his chair and sleep in his chair in front of the window. Mm-hmm. And so he's sleeping in his chair in front of the window, and he hears like a bang and a scream, and then that wakes him up. And then he looks across, and then he sees this neighbor leaving the apartment. All the lights are off. He leaves the apartment at like 2 a.m. with a briefcase, comes back, then leaves a second time, and then comes back, and then nothing happens for a while. Then Jeff falls asleep.
Yeah.
And then while Jeff is asleep, as the director, Alfred Hitchcock, shows us something that Jeff doesn't see, we see the man leave with a woman out of his apartment. And so that moment, it puts doubt inside of you when you're watching this, because later, he wakes up the next morning and Jeff starts talking about this guy did something to his wife. She's not there anymore. He's acting suspicious. And he even saw at one point him, wrapping up a large machete and a saw in his kitchen.
Right.
And so he's like, this just looks very suspicious. But as an audience member, you saw a clip of him leaving with his wife very early in the morning, and later on you start hearing evidence of him buying a train ticket for his wife, and his wife leaving and going and visiting family. Yeah. And so there's this constant back and forth. There's this doubt as an audience member of like, is this happening? And that builds suspense as well, because you don't know what's true and what's not. Yeah. Eventually things start to become revealed to you, and then it's very obvious at the end what is happening. But that's what happens in the movie. It's just like a constant back and forth, and I think that's a brilliant part in the filmmaking that causes that to happen.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And to build on that doubt, the detective friend kept saying, the wife had called from wherever she was traveling from.
Yeah, or it sent a letter, a postcard.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it really added to that, like you said, back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
So
but then there's like, Jeff is like, okay, he said he saw the man on the phone with his wife, and he's like, okay, why would he be on the phone with his wife and saying that, and she said, oh, I just got here, I'm fine. But then why would she also send a postcard that says, I just got here, I'm fine?
Right.
So then he
things
starts
weren't really adding up.
Things weren't adding up. Things weren't happening, and then happening as they probably should. And then Jeff finally narrows it down, and they figure it out. Yeah. They get really bold at the end.
Yeah, I would say just detective. Watch it. Just if you haven't, just take a look at it.
I'm going into lots of detail about it.
Yeah,
but I just really like this is the kind of movie that you have to pay attention to detail.
Oh yeah,
because there's not being a one location movie, all you see is the people in their windows from a distance. So you have to look very closely from a distance, see what there is, and look at the different details.
And you also have some side stories with it too, because you have some people who aren't necessarily invested or involved in the actual, what Jeff is seeing. Mm-hmm. So you start to see those developments and those stories, and there's really not any audible dialogue from them. So you're just you're trying to piece together what's going on. For example, the one woman, I think she's on the bottom floor where, you could
Miss
tell.
Lonely Hearts.
Yeah, you can tell, she's very going through a lot, very upset, and kind of see that build up to and I don't want to ruin that either, but so you do see the character developments in a very well crafted way.
Yeah, there's a lot of small side characters that maybe they don't have as much significance to the plot, but they add this fluff to the movie that adds a great environment. And I think a lot of those side characters that you're viewing, you can get some sort of value out of them when comparing them to the character of Jeff. Because there's two themes in this movie. There's the main theme of murder and mystery, of just trying to figure out who done it. Well, trying to figure out if they did it, rather than who done it. It's if they did it.
Yeah.
And the other theme is Jeff and what's her name again? Jeff and Lisa's relationship.
Yeah.
Because from the very beginning, Jeff tells his nurse that Lisa is too perfect for him.
He doesn't know.
And
if he wants to marry
he
her
doesn't
or not.
know if he wants to marry. And she's like, "You are stupid if you don't marry this girl. She is perfect, which is why you should marry her." And he's like, "She's too perfect." And that kind of goes into the food, because he's talking to the nurse about this, and then he starts to talk to Lisa about his concerns about their relationship, about how they don't really mesh. He's kind of more of a rugged guy who goes out and he's adventuring, and he's always getting himself into trouble and doing things like that. And she's a model,
a fashion
model. So she's very highbrow, always dressed nice, very rich, and
can't really travel too far either.
Yeah, and so he's like, we don't mesh very well. And then this particular scene, when the lobster dinner is presented, he said something like, she's like, "Here's your dinner. Is it good?" He said, "It's perfect." And he said, "It's too perfect," or something like that. Or
I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, and right when it's cutting to this, and he's like, "It's too perfect," because he's getting this. His girlfriend brought him this fancy lobster dinner, and she's wearing this beautiful dress. She just got done this dress that cost like $1,200 back in 1956.
Yeah,
which is a super expensive dress, and she's like. And then he's like, "This is too perfect." When he sees this lobster dinner, he's like, "It's too perfect. Our relationship does not mend well because of that. I don't know if I can continue on with this."
Yeah.
And so just little subtle things like that. The use of the food, of using a very highbrow, fancy food that she provides. And I think she doesn't cook it, but she hires someone else to cook it, like a private chef, to come in and bring it. And so that's even fancier. So he's like, "It's too perfect." And he doesn't know how to. And then eventually, the one thing that bonds the two of them together is trying to solve this mystery of if he did it or not. So Jeff starts to see a side of Lisa he's not seen before.
Yeah.
Of she's like being a detective and getting her hands dirty, literally and figuratively, in trying to figure this out. And he's like, "Okay, she's not who I thought she was.
Right.
That she actually could go with me and do my job with me, and it could work out."
Yeah, because she made the comment, I think, when she brought her briefcase that was really small, something about, "I can travel light too," or something, I think was the dialogue. And so I think she's really, even though she was upset with his response of saying, I don't think it's going to work. And she said, "Goodbye." And he's like, "Don't you mean good night?" Kind of saying like, "Is this over?" And so, her returning, I think, kind of solidified for him.
She said, "It's goodbye," or it until I come back tomorrow, or something. Because she kind of backtracked on it a little bit.
Yeah.
Because they kind of were getting off on a wrong foot there for a while. But then right when, their relationship is about to split is when all this stuff goes down. Yeah. And they start bonding over that, and you see that relationship go forward. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, so really good storytelling, really good cinematography, just because, it fit that, genre of that era really well. And, Alfred Hitchcock actually had his cameo in the film as well. You see him briefly. So it's cool. I think it's always cool when directors put themselves in their movies. Little cameo.
Especially an older director like that, because that's not really a thing that happened very often.
True. Yeah. So he placed himself in there, but it's, really good.
This movie, to me, I've seen it twice now. So it's not like a regular watch for me. First time watching it, the suspense, at least for me, the first time I watched it, the suspense was real. Mm-hmm. You know, when you're watching a movie, you can feel suspense sometimes if it's done well. And at least for me, this one hit really well in the suspense aspect. Obviously, on a rewatch, I already know mostly what had happened. It was a long time between the two times that I had watched it, so there are things that I was introduced again to that I had forgotten. But I knew what happened at the end, and so it wasn't as big of a surprise, but it's still a fun movie to go back to and to dig into those little details and even just get into some of those little side stories and how they relate to Jeff and his life and his story.
For sure.
Because there's a lot of little things. I mean, this is the type of movie, I watched this movie for a film class. We were able to pick a movie, whatever one we had wanted, and I just came across this one and watched it. And so this is the type of movie you watch in a film class and that you write papers about.
Right, yeah.
And so if you're not into that, then maybe you wouldn't like this movie. But that's like one of those type of movies that you could really analyze very deeply, and you can get into, and I could talk about it forever in terms of little details of things that are happening, but I don't want this podcast to sound like my sophomore year of college paper.
So, right, for sure, yeah.
But
no, and I mean, I think it's still good to, analyze the film. Obviously, we don't always have to go in super depth of breaking down directors' vision, why they strategically put some in, even though we've come across movies that do have those where they purposely put those messages in there, and Hitchcock was that way too. I think everything was very strategic, and so but yeah, I mean, I think it's still good to mention those and talk about the specifics of those film, but we also don't want to bore our munchies too if that's something they're not interested in. But
if you want to get a short idea of what this movie is like, in doing research for this movie, I came across, apparently years ago, SNL did a skit about this movie.
Oh, really?
With who was in it? Let me look it up.
Was it the older cast?
Jason Sudeikis.
Oh, really? Okay, so
Rear
one
Window
of the newer
SNL cast. Yeah, a skit.
Oh my goodness.
So anyway, I'm trying to remember who the girl was in it.
That's funny.
And
it shows, I mean,
I don't know who the girl was in it, but anyway, it's pretty recently. I mean, it's not current SNL, but Jason Sudeikis is in it, and the, it's kind of like, I guess in a way this movie is kind of highbrow. It's an Alfred Hitchcock movie. There's Lobster. It's kind of an old movie, kind of fancy. Yeah. And the whole skit is just a big fart joke.
Oh my gosh.
It's just a joke that Grace Kelly had eaten beans and Fruit Loops before they had filmed it, and she just kept farting every time they got to a new take.
Oh my gosh!
And so Jason Sudeikis, who was playing
Jeff,
James Stewart, really.
Oh,
and he's like, I can't take this anymore. And it was all about it, and it all led to a joke at the very end where he said something like, I can't do this anymore, and something about she needs to shut her rear window or something like that. It was all for just some dumb butt joke.
Oh my god!
So anyway, if you're interested in that, it doesn't really spoil the movie at all, but it kind of gives you a literally 5-minute idea of kind of what the movie's like. But I watched that and I thought it was funny.
Oh my gosh!
Just like the juxtaposition of like this kind of highbrow, fancy old movie, and then it's just one big fart joke about Grace Kelly farting a lot on set. So.
Now, did you say that you had a spicy take for this or a thought?
Oh,
about
shoot.
this?
We didn't get into spicy takes.
No, I don't think I have
I don't think I have one either. So I think we're just skipping the spicy takes for today.
Okay.
Because I don't think I have one.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good. I know we've talked about, comparisons.
It's the best
and
Alfred
stuff.
Hitchcock movie of all time. I've only seen 2 of them.
Yeah, and I don't think it. I mean, it's definitely up there as iconic, but I mean, Alfred Hitchcock has so many movies too.
Yeah, it's it is considered one of his best movies because he's done a lot.
Yeah.
But out of the ones he's done, I think a lot of people don't know of it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting in that it's considered one of his best that he's done, and it's decently well known, but not well known enough to where if you were someone to say like, "Hey, name an Alfred Hitchcock movie," they probably wouldn't name this movie.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
no, I agree.
And he has a lot of movies, so it'd be kind of hard to narrow it down. But obviously, Psycho comes to mind. Vertigo, The Birds. There's what is it? North by Northwest.
Yeah.
Things like that. So
yeah. He had so many heavy hitters out there, so it just kind of blended in with the other classics that he's created.
We want to give this a rating.
Yeah. We can go straight into the ratings. I already have my number in mind, so I can I can talk a little bit about it before I reveal. So I think that.
I'm curious to know because since you've just watched this yesterday, we've not really talked about this movie.
Yeah, and I think there is a huge difference between this era of film and nowadays. And I think if you grew up outside of that era, and vice versa, like if that was your era and you're trying to watch something nowadays, you're like, okay, well, that's nothing like it used to be. And the other side of it, my side, is just like, well, I may not be fully invested in what was, created. Obviously you have to give the utmost respect for that era, of film work, because it did pave the way. If it wasn't for black and white films, for actual film, for that time period of time with Hollywood as it was booming, it really, you wouldn't have what we have today. And so really the appreciation of the film, the appreciation of what they had to go through during that time, the respect that I do have for it's actually I corrected myself. It's actually Sir Alfred Hitchcock. I forgot he was knighted. So it's Sir Alfred Hitchcock before he passed, and he so I have respect for that and his contribution to Hollywood and film in general. So with all that being said, I mean, it was a good movie. It's
I think you're compensating because you're gonna give it a low score.
No, I don't think so. I think I still gave it a pretty good score. So I gave it a 7.8.
I'm giving it a 9.0.
Yeah. Which
that tracks because this is one movie I suggested that I liked, and so it's all new to him.
So what is that? 8.4.
Yeah, you're right.
So that's I mean, and rightfully so. I mean, I feel like when we've given our scores and we've averaged it out, when I check on IMDb or other sites like Rotten Tomatoes, we get really close. IMDb is 8.5. We're a 0.1 off.
Yeah.
That's wild.
That happens a lot. I think it's just kind of, and that goes to show preference, because it's always just a preference game, and that's why I kind of like doing averages. Because there's some movies, you like Reservoir Dogs more than I like. I like Rear Window more than you like, and for every movie, we both like Nacho Libre equally, I guess. Yeah, right. But it's good to get an average because there's different movie tastes, and it's hard to define. It's hard to define what is really, really good and what's really, really bad. You know what I mean? So you kind of have to get an average and get a pool of opinions in order to more accurately know about a movie. Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And all we've said this before, all ratings can be skewed. You can have some people who are just, anti one person and that's why the score goes down, when in reality, if they're just watching it for what it is, it is probably a better quality movie. But
what's interesting though is that this movie on Rotten Tomatoes has a 95 audience score and a 98 regular tomato meter.
So they're way
so
up
they're
there.
way high.
I think I saw the meta score on IMDb. I think it had 100 actually. Let me scroll down to see.
What's the meta score? I don't use IMDb very much.
I know. I want to say and I could be completely wrong. I want to say that's maybe only critics ratings maybe. And I'll have to look more into it. I can probably get more.
Yeah, kind of like the critic review. 100 Metascore. Yeah.
So it got 100.
Yeah.
You know, so critics are, agreeing that this is
it is definitely a movie that critics would like.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Which it kind of makes you wonder, like, where did the separation go?
I don't know, but it's weird though, because with Rotten Tomatoes, there's not much of a separation. There's a 3% separation between 98 and 95 for the Rotten Tomatoes score, but there is a much bigger separation. A 15-point separation between an 8.5 and 100 Metascore.
Right.
So it's 4.4 on Letterboxd, which would be 8.8.
Yeah.
4.4 out of 5, so it'd be an 8.8.
Yeah.
So it's kind of in between.
Right. Yeah.
So it really just depends.
Yeah. Anything above 8, we've talked about is good.
Yeah,
so
it's good.
So yeah.
All right, we ready for our Cine Snack?
I think so. Okay, with the rules, I know we're still doing the yes or no questions. We get 3 clues. I'm gonna be the guesser this week or this episode.
Mm-hmm.
So you already have a movie in mind?
I just did. I got one now.
Okay, so you have a movie in
mind.
mind.
I pulled it up because I don't know a ton of information, but
you know enough about.
I know enough about it.
Okay.
But I wanted to know like when it came out and directors and main stars and everything. So
okay. And so yeah, and then whoever loses gets the punishment.
Yeah. So let's see here. Let me write it down.
Yeah, if you want to write it down, I'm actually gonna grab.
Oh, get your. We need to get timers up. I about said it out loud just now when I was writing it. All right. Close your eyes.
Oh wait, hold on.
Close your eyes.
All right, they're closed.
Okay, this is the movie. Okay. So there's the movie.
Okay.
Let me get up a 2-minute timer.
I'll do a timer as well.
All right.
Timer.
Are you ready?
Hold on. Wait.
It's been so how many episodes now? At last one we can't really count. So 7 out of 7 episodes you've only been punished once.
Yes. That's true.
So, and in the 8th episode in which we're throwing the bags for the ostrich egg, I also lost because I had to take 3 shots.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
7 out of 8 of the episodes I've been a loser, and I really hope it doesn't happen again.
All right, well,
I have a better chance of you not getting it than I have a chance of me getting one. So this is the opportunity. Yeah. Right here.
Okay. 3,
ready?
2, 1. All right. Is it a 90s movie?
No.
2000s.
Yep.
Okay, 2000s. Is it a male lead?
Yes.
Is it a cartoon?
Yes.
Is it a Disney movie?
Nope.
DreamWorks.
Oh, shoot.
Oh, no.
I think, yes, it is.
DreamWorks?
Mm-hmm.
Is it...
it's too obvious, maybe.
Is there mice in the film?
Maybe, but I don't think so.
It's not the main character?
No.
Is the main character an animal?
Yes.
Is it
Dang it.
Is there a few animals?
Yeah, there's a few. Uh-huh.
Like a lion?
No.
Is there land animals?
Yeah.
Okay. Or is there also water animals?
No. Not well, yes. One of them is kind of both an amphibian. I'll just give you a hint.
Okay.
Kind of both.
Okay, but the main one is there is one distinct guy, like one male cartoon.
Yes.
Guy. Are there sharks in the movie?
No.
Are they zoo animals?
No.
Are they in Africa?
No.
Are they in America?
Yeah.
Okay. Are they small animals?
Yeah.
Okay. So they're not mice?
No.
Okay.
27 seconds.
Are they dogs?
No.
Cats?
No.
So are they outdoor animals?
Yes. 17
oh
seconds. Come on. Oh, we didn't do hints.
Close. Oh, what's one hint?
Plunger.
Plunger. 2 hint.
Exterminator.
3 hint.
Bush. Time's up. I forgot about hints, but I gave them all to you at the very end, so I think we're good. You have a lot to go off of. I think you're close. But I don't.
I think I'm right.
I really hope you're not. Dang it.
Raccoon.
No! I hate my life.
Is it Over the Hedge?
Oh my! Over the Hedge. Did I give it? When I said Exterminator, or was it when I said Bush?
Well, Exterminator. I think the combination of the clues. The combination, because you said Exterminator.
I should have thought
Bush.
about the clues beforehand.
Yeah, you said Exterminator, Bush, and what else?
Plunger, because in the poster, one of them is holding a plunger.
Oh,
so
okay.
That's why I said
that. The plunger would have been different for me because I kept thinking. What was the one we mentioned before? Flushed Away.
Flushed Away.
So, but okay, Over the Hedge.
Dang it!
Okay, so I guess
guys, I'm horrible at this game, and apparently I'm horrible at picking movies. I need to pick harder movies because I'm trying to go easy on you.
Yeah.
And then I go too easy, apparently.
No, you're good. So the punishment, you can explain it, but I will say, to my knowledge, the punishment you said will have to be a different clip.
Yeah, so we're going to cut to that clip here in a minute because we got to go outside to do this.
All right, so what's
but
the
punishment? So in Rear Window, he's in a... Jeff is in a wheelchair for the entirety of the movie. So the punishment is to get... we have a wheelchair here. The punishment is to wheel yourself in the wheelchair up the hill in the parking lot.
Okay.
And so now I'm going to have to do that.
So your legs are sore this week, so now your arms are going to be sore.
My arms are going to be sore. My whole body is going to start hurting. So I guess cut to the clip of me going up the hill.
Up the hill right here. Cut to it. All right. So we are outside about to do... Oh my gosh. All right, I'm sideways now. All right, we're outside. We're going to do the punishment for Adam. He's right here. If I can switch it around. So we didn't find a wheelchair that you're able to push yourself on the wheels. So part of this is going to be really just Adam pushing me up a hill. So I'm already tired. Huh? Yeah, in the wheelchair. So yeah, it's pretty hot outside too. So it's still, I think, worth a punishment. So he's gonna do that. And then, yeah, that's gonna be pretty much that's pretty much gonna be it. So this is a glimpse into my future.
Oh gosh.
Where Adam's just gonna be pushing me everywhere.
I don't know if this will be easier or harder than having to do it myself.
I don't know if you can see the chair.
It's probably a little bit easier, but I don't know.
And Adam's legs were already sore from soccer, so I'm sure this is extra help. So it's actually very pleasant for me.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
This is, you know, just enjoying this nice day. It's already working on him pretty well, but
it's not as bad as I thought. But I don't know if this is easier or harder than doing it myself.
Well, just think every time we do CineSnacks, just remember that this could be another possibility for you. So
yeah, well,
motivation, more motivation.
At this point, I just have to accept that I'm gonna have to do the punishment every time.
Yeah, you never know. You never know. On the next episode, you might win it. I think you should just push me to the door, right?
All the way to the door? Okay.
I don't know, maybe. It's actually...
We're gonna go fast now.
Woo!
We're gonna go fast. This wheelchair
I don't even know what happened.
This wheelchair is not rated for my super speedy speed.
Yeah, it's not meant for speed. Oh, you even got a jog going.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, so
now
I'm sure people...
Now we're going a little bit down.
There we go. Get a little break. I'm sure some people driving by are very curious as to what we're doing, but I don't.
Well,
hey, watch the podcast.
Watch the pod.
Yeah. CineBites every Monday morning, 9 a.m. That was great.
Well, that was miserable.
That was really... I enjoyed that.
I'm really sure good. You enjoyed it. What
really
is
good.
It with me and this stupid game? I'm over it. We need to start... I don't know.
We'll brainstorm some other ideas. Maybe some other games.
I get hints and you don't.
Yeah.
Well, whatever. That's just how the cookie crumbles, I suppose.
Is, yeah.
Well, as we draw the curtains on this captivating episode of CineBites, where we've explored the intriguing world of Rear Window and its cinematic and culinary connections, we hope you enjoyed this suspenseful journey as much as we have. Just as Hitchcock masterfully crafted suspense, so too does the marriage of food and film leave us craving more. Thank you for joining us today. Stay tuned for more cinematic flavors in upcoming episodes of CineBites. Make sure to follow us on YouTube and on Instagram, and you can hear us audio version on any major podcasting platform weekly Monday at 9 a.m. Until next time,
Bon appetit and happy viewing.